Hello, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a book haul, and an unplanned one at that. So, somehow I missed the memo about Indie Bookstore Day this year. Like, it was completely off my radar. And then by the time I actually found out about it, I had placed like a book order the week before. So I told myself, you just ordered books, so you don't need more books. You also have plenty of unread books on your physical TBR, so you don't need books. And you support indie bookstores all year round, so it's okay, Brittany, that you don't buy anything today. And the pep talk worked. I was saintly until around 6:30 p.m. on Indie Bookstore Day, because as I was like idly scrolling through my emails, I saw one that piqued my interest. It was from the Strand bookstore in NYC. It is like a book lover's paradise. They're famous for having, I think, like 18 miles of books or something like that. Something really ridiculous is their claim to fame. And this email said that everything on their website was going to be marked 30% off. And oh my god, yeah, things happened. Lots of things happened. Lots of things ended up in my cart, and those things have been slowly but surely arriving over the last couple of days. So I figured I would show everything to you because you guys seem to like hauls quite a bit, and I have fun filming them. I'm gonna show the nonfiction books first, and I'll put a timestamp when the fiction books begin, just in case you're only interested in a certain type of book. But why don't we just like dive right in, okay? Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about the few nonfiction books I bought, and then I'll move over to fiction. But the first book that I want to talk about is Square Haunting: 5 Writers in London Between the Wars by Francesca Wade. And this book came onto my radar actually because of the like Goodreads giveaway section. I troll that thing regularly. I enter numerous giveaways. I never win them, unlike someone I know, Katie. Excuse me. But I obviously didn't win this one. Still really wanted to read it, so I did order myself a copy, obviously. It is about 5 women living on Mecklenburgh Square in London, which is near Bloomsbury or kind of in that same neighborhood, and they're all writers kind of paving a way at a time when women are gaining independence and autonomy and rights in general. So it's chronicling the lives of H.D., the modern poet, novelist Dorothy L. Sayers, classicist Jane Harrison, historian Eileen Power, and lastly Virginia Woolf. And this just was up my alley. I love history, especially when it looks at women or particular women throughout history, and since this is also about the wars in effect, it really just screamed Brittany by me, and it ended up in my cart, and now I have a copy. It sounds really interesting to me, so looking forward to this one. The next book was also one that I discovered thanks to that Goodreads giveaway section. Not gonna lie, that section is dangerous for me because I enter the giveaways, and when I don't win the books, I end up buying the books, and it becomes a thing. And in this case, I ended up buying The 12 Lives of Alfred Hitchcock by Edward White. As I've mentioned a few times on this channel, I love film, like a lot, and I particularly love classic film, so movies from like the 30s, 40s, 50s, and part of the 60s. So because of that, I am more than a little bit familiar with Alfred Hitchcock, and I really liked the idea of this book because the 12 lives that it's referring to are these different facets of Alfred Hitchcock himself. So like there's a section that's on him being a family man, there's a section on him being a pioneer or a womanizer, and all of those 12 aspects of him are meant to help illuminate the life of Alfred Hitchcock, both as the myth, the legend, and the man sort of thing. And it just seems really interesting to me to explore him in that way. So the way that this is all set up really interested me. Not gonna lie, one of the things I'm most looking forward to about this book is learning more about his wife, Alma, who is so fascinating to me. So I do really look forward to seeing a little bit more about their marriage and her as a woman through this book. So yes, a biography that I am very, very excited about. And the last of the nonfiction books is The Crown in Crisis, Countdown to the Abdication by Alexander Larman. Now, a couple months ago at this point, I read a biography on Wallace Simpson, who was the American divorcee that King Edward VIII of England ultimately abdicated the throne in order to marry. And so this book is zeroing in on the actual abdication and the constitutional crisis that was happening because of this whole to-do. And what I like about this is that it's saying that it's supposed to be this hour by hour, day by day kind of analysis of everything leading up to that speech that Edward gave, where he's talking about how he can't be king without the woman he loves at his side. That's a paraphrase, but yeah, I'm kind of intrigued to explore this abdication crisis a little bit more. Not gonna lie, I'm a bit of a royal watcher, so I am really curious about how this will depict both Edward and Wallace, and if there's anything new that this book will shed light on that I might not have seen in the Wallace Simpson book, or in the countless documentaries and dramas like The Crown that touch upon this moment in history. So, looking forward to it. So, it looks like my nose is really red from here, and if it is, it's because I've been drinking a little wine on the side while filming this, so if I do have a red nose, we'll see if it actually shows up in footage. Just know it's because I'm having a good time here. But anywho, so now we're gonna start talking about the fiction books, and to be honest, it is the lion's share of what this haul is. I have a very healthy stack of books right next to my glass of white wine, and the first book that I want to talk about is The Last Station, a novel of Tolstoy's final year by J. Parini, and this is actually a used edition. I think 2, maybe 3 of the books I ordered were used, and this one is in really good condition. I'm not seeing any underlining, dog-earing, highlighting. The only thing is that the edges of the pages are a little yellowed, as you would expect from any book as it ages. But yeah, I am really excited about this. As the sticker says on the cover, is that a sticker? No, it's actually painted on. As it says on this book, soon to be a major motion picture starring Helen Mirren, Christopher Plummer, and James McAvoy. And I love this movie. I watch it all the time. Helen Mirren as Sophia Tolstoy is flawless. Christopher Plummer as Leo Tolstoy is also flawless. And it's the sort of movie that I watch and undoubtedly cry through at the end. So I really wanted to read the book that it is based on. So really, this book was just calling to me. I love the movie. It's about Russia. It's about Leo Tolstoy. It's historical fiction. That's kind of check, check, check when it comes to books that I enjoy. But what I love about this is that it's essentially looking at this one year in Leo Tolstoy's life, his final year, when things are really tenuous. He has this Tolstoyan society, and they're all about poverty and sort of a simple peasant lifestyle, and they're trying to get him, I think, to sign away the rights to his works in his will, and Sophia Tolstoy is trying to prevent that from happening, and there's just a lot going on, And the movie itself is very much a love story about Sofia and Leo Tolstoy, so I'm interested in seeing whether or not that is really a major like thread throughout this book. But I'm very excited about this one. And yeah, that's really it. It's just a book that I personally need to read, and I can't see myself not really enjoying this, to be honest. Like, I'm predicting 5 stars here. Just putting that out in the universe from now. I also anticipate lots of tears towards the end, but we'll see. The next book is one that was on like my anticipated releases for like the very beginning of the year, and it's The Lamplighters by Emma, I'm gonna say Emma Stone, with the EX being silent, but I could be very, very wrong. But this book intrigued me because it's based on this like mystery that I remember BuzzFeed Unsolved covering, where essentially there was this lighthouse that was in a very, very remote location, and there were like 3 men who were tending to it, and all of a sudden they just vanish without a trace. No one can figure out what happened to them, and so that's kind of the crux of what happens here. It seems like a number of years after this mysterious disappearance, a writer goes to talk with the wives of these disappeared men and is trying to like uncover the truth, and the mystery is really interesting. I know like BuzzFeed Unsolved, they talk about maybe it's supernatural stuff that happens, and just all this like theorizing and trying to debunk these different theories. So I'm interested to see what angle they take here and how they like solve the mystery in the book itself. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. And one of the things that really interested me as well about this, that made it somewhat unique from the books that I tend to read, is that it's definitely more recent historical fiction, in the sense that I think the men disappear in the 70s, and this book is taking place like 25 years later. So it looks like it's going to be 1970s and 1990s focused, which is not an era in history that I tend to read a lot about. So that should be interesting as well. The next book is one that I discovered while trolling like the Literary Hub historical fiction section, but it really caught my eye, and that was Stella by Takis Wurger, whose name I am undoubtedly butchering, but it stood out to me for like 3 reasons. The first is it's a translation, which, check, love it, love to see it. The second part was that the author is German, and while I have read a ton of World War II historical fiction, I don't know that I can say that I've read anything written by a German. So I feel like that will be an interesting like perspective and have an interesting impact on the story and how it's told. And the other part of it was this one section of the synopsis in which it seems like, for the most part, this very lean historical fiction, it's not even 200 pages long, is about this like love affair between this artist and a young woman. So there's like this artist-muse relationship, but the young woman's like loyalties during this rise of Hitler and Nazism in Berlin, her loyalties seem to be a little bit vague and mysterious, and then it comes out that she is a Jewish woman passing as Aryan, and that really made me curious. So I do want to get to this at some point soon. It is short, as I said, not even 200 pages, but there are just a lot of things about this that have me genuinely curious, and so I'll be interested in sinking my teeth into this one ASAP. And the next book is another translation. It's Isa's Ballad by Magda Szabo. Now, I picked this up the same day, I think, that I finished reading Abigail in April, and I loved Abigail, and I read another of Magda Szabo's books in the summer of 2020, The Door, and loved it as well. Like, she's a contender for a new favorite author of mine, and so obviously I had to pick up another one of her books, and yeah, that was really it. This one is about the relationship of a mother and daughter living in communist Hungary after World War II, and the first book that I read by Magda Szabo was also a book that was largely about the relationship of two women. In that case, it was an employer and an employee. So I'm very curious about how this mother-daughter relationship is going to be, like, depicted, because one of the things that Magda Szabo does so well is create these really complex and nuanced characters. And so I think part of it is going to be that the mother and daughter are kind of representative of old world and new world, or old way of thinking, new way of thinking. And so, yeah, very, very curious. Also, her writing is just amazing, and I'm reading a translation and find it really beautiful. So I have serious FOMO over the fact that I can't read it in its original language, which is Hungarian, but needs must. I don't know Hungarian, so I'm going to read it in English, but Magda Szabo is, like, quickly becoming a new favorite author for me. So, yeah, that's a wrap on that one. Alright, so the next book is one that I discovered thanks to BookTube, but I, for the life of me, can't remember whose channel I saw this book on. But the book in question is Delayed Rays of a Star by Amanda Lee Coe, and it is a book that is totally feeding my love for classic Hollywood and classic film stars. It's looking at Marlene Dietrich, it's looking at Anna May Wong, who I believe is the first, like, Chinese-American star, and then also at Leni Riefenstahl, if that's how you pronounce her name, and I'm pretty sure she is the, like, propaganda filmmaker under, like, the Nazi regime. Like, she is part of Adolf Hitler's, like, propaganda arm, I think, if I could be completely off base, but I'm pretty sure that's who it is. But I am very curious about how this book is going to, like, weave the stories of these three women together, because, to be honest, it feels like any one of them could have a historical fiction novel in her own right, and there would be plenty to write about. But somehow we sandwich them together in, like, 360, 370 pages. And I think, like, what the crux of it is that somehow these three women end up being at the same party and they're photographed together, and that's what sets this book in motion. I really don't know more than that, and I'm okay with that. I just need to see how this actually, like, unfolds and unfurls and all of that, because I think it could be really interesting. And although I love classic Hollywood and film, I don't really know much about Leni. I don't really know much about Anna May Wong. The only one that I'm really familiar with is Marlene Dietrich, and even then, it's more that she's a film star, and I think she kinda was a bit, like, not too thrilled with a lot of press coverage, I think. But I could be mistaking her for Greta Garbo. Actually, I think it might be Greta Garbo who's the recluse. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll go on a journey together, and I'll report back. The next book may or may not have been on my, like, beginning of the year anticipated releases, like, lists. I could be dreaming that I included it. I feel like I did, but I don't know. But regardless, it's Finding Napoleon by Margaret Rodenberg, and I went through a phase last summer where I was just devouring everything that I could on the Napoleonic Wars, but in particular about women during the Napoleonic Wars. And so I read an Alison Pataki book on Desiree Clary, who was one of Napoleon's lovers. I read an entire trilogy on Josephine Bonaparte, Napoleon's wife and empress, and this seems to be a book on another lady love in his life, Albine, and funnily enough, one of the blurbs is by the author of the Desiree book, and the other blurb on the back is the author of the Josephine B trilogy, so they were very smart with this. Like, if you are interested in this period, you would see those names and probably pay attention, because I certainly did. So, in this case, Albine is his lover after Josephine. It's when he's been basically exiled from France, and so I think he's living on St. Helena. And it's about them trying to, like, plot their escape, essentially. And I think the book is actually narrated from the perspective of Albine. So this is like me continuing this journey through Napoleon's life through the vantage point of the women he loved, and I'm just really curious. Like, the Napoleonic Wars are so fascinating to me, but there really isn't that much historical fiction about it out there that I could find that wasn't very, like, heavily military historical fiction. So the fact that this exists makes me really happy, because I am hungry for it. So yes, that's what I have to say on this one. And the last book is A Doll's House and Other Plays by Henrik Ibsen, and to be honest, I've just been kind of bitten by the play bug again, and I'm just rolling with it. Like, I'm just gonna go along for the ride and enjoy it. But Henrik Ibsen is a playwright that I am familiar with. I have actually read A Doll's House before in college, and also I want to say Enemy of the People, which I think is one of the plays that's also in this book, along with, what are the other two or three? What is it? Ghosts, which I've never heard of, and Pillars of the Community, which I have also never heard of. But A Doll's House was like this powerful feminist type play that I really, really enjoyed, and I have a copy of it somewhere, but it's really, really old and really, really small. Hold on, let me actually grab it. You know what? I can't find it. It's like literally this big, and I think it's yellow, and I have a feeling it was published, like that edition, in the early 1900s, because it's one of those like antiquarian books that I own. But yeah, that's just not something that I'm gonna flip through, because it's so fragile and I'm so scared of it. So I really did want another copy so that I could reread A Doll's House, because it's been a while. I think I read it as a junior in college, potentially, and I just remember being fascinated by it. I would love to reread An Enemy of the People as well, so this just seemed like a good bargain for plays for the price of one book. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. It's just gonna be a fun ride, gonna enjoy this one. I already know that. So yeah, those were the 10 books that I bought on Indie Bookstore Day from the Strand. Should I have bought them? Probably not. Do I have any regrets? Absolutely not, because I am actually very, very excited to get to each and every one of the books that I just talked about. If you are interested in any of these books, certainly let me know if you're adding them to your own TBR or wish list. If you bought any books on Indie Bookstore Day, also let me know about that in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!